Peace and welcome to the Atlantis School for Gifted Youngsters. Thanks for watching and subscribing to our channel.
So you have to look at everything. How does this relate to me? When we were going through the lesson talking about Musa having a hard time civilizing the devil and all this other stuff, look at yourself in that. Consider the hard times that you've had in certain instances. That is where you get the actual understanding from, by being able to apply it to your own life. All of those lessons, the mathematics, the alphabet, all of those things. So this is what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna start showing you how to make the connections and correlations, but we're gonna do it extemporaneously. That's a fancy way of saying freestyle. Okay, so I start with 4. Okay, so 4 is culture or freedom, or we'll just say culture. Culture, when you think about culture, culture is a sum total of all your people activities. Some people break it down and you may hear it simply said, oh, culture is your way of life. And that's true and it's simple, but at the same time, culture encompasses all of your people activities. All of your people activities. How you choose to rear children, your diet, your regalia or your style of dress, how you engage your elders, if you even call them elders. Some may call them senior citizens. All of those components comprise your culture. It's very vast and it's all encompassing. So to reduce it and just say, oh, it's your way of life, you do yourself an injustice by not examining how vast these elements of culture are. Because again, when you look at the 4th letter in the alphabet, that is D, divine or destroy. And if you just simply reduce your culture to, oh, it's a way of life, you may not be critically examining that way of life well enough to be able to distinguish what is divine and what is destroy. Does that make sense to y'all? You may just throw it all together instead of being a very critical, analytical thinker and say, nah, this is not what it is. This needs to be over here. This needs to be over here. That needs to be over there. So culture is the sum total of all of your people activities, every single thing that you do. Right? So take culture and let's relate it to, let's go straight to our degrees now. Okay. So let's go to this first degree. Let's go to the 4th degree in the 1 to 14s. Why do we run Yaqub and his made devil from the root of civilization over the hot Arabian desert and into the caves of West Asia, as they now call it, Europe? What does it mean in EU and ROPE? How long ago? What did the devil bring with them? What kind of life did the devil live in? And how long before Musa came to teach the devil the forgotten trick knowledge? We went through this degree some classes ago, and we talked about this procedure being used in relationship to adversity or a devil, not just somebody that's simply outside of ourselves, but internal adversity that we're dealing with. We may need to take that type of approach in order to rope and bind it in to gain some sense of control over some things that were out of control in our life. This lesson is different than some of the other lessons when it comes to dealing with devil, right? So how does this relate to culture? When you think about that lesson concerning looking at culture as all of your people activities, what does that have to do with running the devil from amongst you? And how do you do that? So think about one aspect of your culture. For example, think about your diet. Think about your diet. Think about something in your diet that would be equivalent to a devil that you need to run from amongst you. Because it's causing all kinds of trouble. Right? you may have to take that very elaborate procedure in order for you to overcome your taste for certain things in your diet that you know is not the best for you. Other things you might be able to just cut right off. But some things, you know, you got to work a little bit more harder on. Right? Um, um, at one point, I say like in early 2000, I used to smoke these things called beaties. And these, I had an addiction to those things. You know what I'm saying? I was addicted to the nicotine in those things. And it was difficult for me to just be like, yo, I ain't messing with these beaties no more. Right? So I had to put together an elaborate procedure in order to cut that out of my life. Meaning I lived in an area at the time where there was a cigar shop right down the street, and I would go in that direction in my travels. I had to change my whole routine and my directions so that I couldn't even go that way. So it's kind of like some things you can cut off cold turkey, other things you have to deconstruct, like the mechanisms in a watch. You have to take certain components out so that it won't work at all. You have to deconstruct it. So when you look at that culture degree, it shows you about deconstruction. We took everything from them but their language and made them walk every step of the way. It was 2,200 miles. It's very elaborate in how you dealt with that form of adversity, or what you would consider to be a devil that was amongst you. Sometimes certain habits that you have to be dealt with the exact same way. You have to strip it of its power in your life by deconstructing the type of routine and relationship that you have with it. So when we think about our culture being the sum total of all of our people activities, there are certain activities in our life that requires that approach. Because if we don't take that approach, it's going to put us in the knowledge cipher degree. So let me show you this. So you look in this 10th degree. It says Muhammad. Muhammad means one that's worthy of praise. So it says, learn that he could not reform him, devil. Because sometimes people try to reform stuff. They still want to hold on to it. Instead of getting rid of it, they're like, well, maybe it ain't that bad. Maybe I just take his keys from him so he can't come to the house whenever he wants. But I still want to smash. Maybe, you know, we could kind of still be cool, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't got to totally cut him off. Right? I'm going to shut the door, but I ain't going to lock it. Right? But this part of the degree, that's why I'm bringing it up. It says that he learned that he could not reform him, devil, because he knew there was a snake. Also, if allowed to live, and this is the point that I wanted to make, also if allowed to live, it'll just sting somebody else. So that was the point that I was making. Sometimes if we don't use the proper procedure in how to address something, we allow it to live. We allow it to live, and it'll come back and bite us. Right? So some of the things that I'm sharing right now, this is not based on whether somebody wants to believe it or be convinced or anything like that. This is based upon observing natural life processes and being honest with our life experience, right?